Yeah.
Take me? Okay. So we're talking about yoga for hypermobility. So this is a little bit of a class. We might be able to move a little bit, but it was only 25 minutes. The point is to discuss yoga for hypermobility, because a lot of times we're told not to do yoga if you're hypermobile. And the reason why they say no yoga is because in yoga you do all these positions and everything, and when you're hypermobile, you can't stop yourself. No way to stop yourself. You don't know where you're going. You end up stretching too far, because a lot of times in yoga we're told to stretch. So if you hypermobile and you're in a class and you're doing a position like this, and everybody's like raise up, and then they say go down, and then you're hypermobile and you're like this, and you're like, wait a minute, yeah, what do I do? Where do I go? I don't feel it. So this is where, and this is just one position, but this is why yoga for hypermobility can be dangerous. Yes. Because the people have no awareness of when to stop. They have no awareness how to stop themselves, and they have no awareness of why they're going so far, and they can even do that. A lot of times they don't even know that they're hypermobile. Sorry. But then what happens is the yoga teacher will be like, oh my gosh, you're so great, you're so lucky, you can do that. And what they don't know is they're basically validating something that's not necessarily wrong, but something that they're glorifying something that really shouldn't be glorified. So when you teach yoga for hypermobility, or when you do yoga for hypermobility, it's all about proprioception, which we talk a lot about in PT, but knowing where your body and your mind is in alignment, but not going so far. So a lot of times in yoga for hypermobility, in every position, like if we were doing this, if I teach this and I say go up, and I can say go halfway down or go over, I'll say stop right here. Because a lot of times to hold myself here or hold the body up here is harder for somebody who's hypermobile than to go down here. This is easy. Yes. To hold ourselves up like this requires a lot more muscle, because we then have to engage our core, we have to engage our lower back properly, we have to hold ourselves up like this when this is harder. So in yoga for hypermobility, a lot of times it's not about how far you can go, it's actually stopping at about 60 to 75% of your range of motion. And remember, our range of motion for our joints is a lot more than the normal person. So we want to stop before our range of motion. So another way to do it is make sure you don't hyperextend your legs. But if you were to stand up and you were to do a sun salutation, so you're here, you want to make sure you're positioned properly, standing up and down. You don't want to hyperextend your legs. Always have like a little bit of a micro bend, which to a normal person, this is straight, right? Yes. But this is us. So we want to be a little bit of a micro bend, and if we were to raise our hands up, we want to keep your neck, neutral alignment straight. So I'm not like this, and I'm not like this. A lot of times when we're hypermobile, we want to go like this. That's not what we want to do. We want to keep ourselves up, just straight, tall, and then you come down, so we can touch our hands to the floor, right? We don't need to necessarily do that. This is where our real work is, because I'm not hyperextending my knees, so I'm up, and I'm coming down, and I'm not going like this. This is hyperextending and going all the way down. This is no work. This is super easy, right? This is hanging on my joints like this. But if I put a little bit of a micro bend on my knees, and I kind of go halfway up, and I make sure my back is flat, my core is engaged, I'm up like this, this is where my work is. My core is in, my back is straight, I'm not like this. This would actually be pulling too much on these muscles right here that are along my spine. So a lot of us, when you're hypermobile, when you're moving around, like bending over like this, my back is hunched, that actually starts hurting right here. So you want to make sure you're flat back, your knees are a little bit bent, and you're really using your glutes and your hamstrings to help keep you up. So you want to make sure you're engaging the right muscles. When you engage the right muscles, you have to change your positioning. So no hyperextending, a little bit of a micro bend, flat back, hold it here. That's your real work. And the more you work in the right range of motion, which is actually less range of motion for us, and you engage the right muscles, then your muscles learn to do the work that the connective tissues don't do. Just like Dr. Chopra said, the reason why muscle strength is so important in hypermobility is because it does the work that our connective tissues do not do. So, but we can train them, but you have to train them. If they're not strengthened, then you can't do it. So you have to strengthen them, to train them basically to stop us from going too far. So